Today's experience is that of an ex-Muslim woman. She died and met with Jesus. The shocking part of this experience was what he revealed to her. Kindly stay to the end to fully understand her experience. Thank you. My name is Ruqayyat Abdul. I came from a long line of devout Muslims, people who revered faith as the anchor in our lives. Growing up, my mother would often remind me that prayer was a shield, a means of connecting to something greater, and I took that to heart. My days were full, often beginning just before dawn with the soft, familiar rhythm of the adhan, the call to prayer. After the first prayer of the day, I'd sit in the early light, sipping tea and reading passages from the Quran. I tried to live by what I believed, following the teachings that had been instilled in me since I was a child. My daily routine revolved around my faith and family. I worked part-time as a teacher at the community school, where I taught young girls how to read and write. Education, I believed, was a light, and I felt honored to play a small role in shaping these young lives. Yet even in my work, I saw it as part of my devotion, a chance to pass down what I'd been given. That evening began like any other. I had finished evening prayers at the mosque, feeling a familiar calm settle over me as I stepped outside. I walked slowly, lost in thought as I made my way toward home. I didn't notice the small, uneven stone on the edge of the step, and before I could catch myself, I slipped. My ankle twisted, and I felt my body falling. It was a strange sensation, almost as if time slowed down, and I was suspended for a moment in midair. When I hit the ground, there was a flash of pain in my head, and then nothing. The world around me went silent. I couldn't hear the usual sounds of the town, the distant voices, the rustling of trees. It was as if I'd fallen into a different reality, one where everything was muted. I became aware of my body lying there, still and quiet, and I could hear faint shouts and footsteps approaching. People were calling my name. It sounded far away, like echoes from a dream. Slowly, I realized something strange. I was looking down at myself. It didn't make sense, but I saw it as clearly as if I were standing above, watching the scene unfold. My family had rushed outside, and neighbors were gathering too. I could see my mother kneeling beside me, her hands trembling as she tried to shake me awake. She looked so frightened, her face pale under the moonlight, her lips moving in a prayer. My younger brother was beside her, tears streaming down his face as he held onto her shoulder. A few friends had also gathered, their eyes wide with shock. One of them was calling for help. His voice panicked, but it felt distant, like the sound of waves crashing against a shore I was drifting further from. I wanted to reach out to them, to tell them I was here, that I could see them and hear them, but when I tried to speak, no sound came out. My voice felt trapped somewhere deep inside, and I began to realize that they couldn't see me. My heart pounded as the reality sank in. I was no longer in my body. It was an odd feeling, as if I were weightless, floating just above them, watching everything from an impossible angle. I could feel a pull, something drawing me away, like a gentle current. The people around me, the familiar faces I had known all my life, began to feel as if they were on the other side of a wall I couldn't cross. I felt a mixture of sadness and helplessness watching them cry and panic over my lifeless body lying there, unable to respond. As they continued their attempts to revive me, I began to drift, like a feather carried by the wind. The world below me grew faint, and the voices softened until they were no more than whispers. My town, my family, my whole life seemed to recede, growing smaller and further away, as though I were being drawn into another realm entirely. As I drifted further from the world I knew, a thick, oppressive darkness enveloped me. It wasn't like the quiet darkness of night. It was alive, pulsing with an overwhelming sense of dread. There was no ground beneath me, no sky above me, just an endless void that seemed to pull me deeper and deeper. The air felt heavy, pressing against me, making it hard to breathe. I felt utterly alone. Then, faint sounds began to rise, distant at first but growing louder with every passing moment. They were not screams exactly, but groans, low, guttural, and filled with despair. It was a sound that seemed to pierce straight into my soul. Shadows flickered around me, swirling like restless smoke. As they moved, they began to take shape. The first thing I noticed were the souls. They weren't like people I had seen in life. They looked fragmented, as though pieces of them were missing or distorted. Some were translucent, their forms flickering like dying embers. Others were solid, but their features were warped, their faces twisted in silent anguish. One soul caught my attention. A woman suspended in the air, her arms outstretched as if trying to grasp at something that wasn't there. She looked familiar, but I couldn't place her. Around her swirled shards of glass, cutting into her, yet no blood spilled. Each cut seemed to dim her form, as though she were slowly fading with every wound. I heard her whispering something over and over, her voice barely audible. I didn't mean it. I didn't know. I turned away, only to see another soul trapped in what looked like a web of molten threads. The threads glowed a fiery orange, and every time the soul struggled, the threads tightened, burning into their form. The soul cried out, but the threads didn't relent, binding tighter and tighter. There was no fire, no visible flames, yet the heat was suffocating, radiating from those glowing threads like the sun itself. Around me, the ground shifted, or at least what I thought was the ground. It was like walking on ash that crumbled beneath my feet. But when I looked down, there was nothing solid, only endless depths filled with faint, glowing lights. Each light, I realized, was a soul. They floated aimlessly, their faint cries rising like whispers in the darkness. I saw rivers, not of fire, but of something darker and thicker, like tar. Souls were submerged in it, struggling to move as the substance clung to them, dragging them down. They clawed at each other, desperately trying to pull themselves free, but their efforts only seemed to sink them further. Some souls were caught in the current, carried downstream to places I dared not imagine. In one corner of this realm, I saw shadows standing motionless, their faces turned toward a towering gate that seemed to shimmer with light. They looked as if they were waiting, yearning, for something or someone to open it. But the gate remained locked, and with every passing moment, their forms grew dimmer, as if the hope itself was being drained from them. What struck me most was the silence between the cries. It wasn't empty. It was weighted with regret, as if the very air carried the weight of choices made and paths not taken. It wasn't just the torment of the body I was witnessing. It was the torment of the soul, the kind that comes from understanding too late the consequences of a life lived without truth. I felt the pull again, stronger this time, dragging me deeper into this realm. The darkness thickened, and I began to see things I cannot fully describe, things that seemed to exist beyond human understanding. Shapes and colors that weren't natural, movements that defied logic. It was as if this place was alive, feeding off the despair and suffering of the souls trapped within it. As the pull dragged me deeper into the darkness, I felt an unbearable weight pressing down on me, crushing not just my body but something deeper, my very soul. The air around me seemed to throb with despair, a relentless rhythm that echoed the cries of the suffering. I couldn't move, couldn't think, and for the first time, I truly understood the meaning of helplessness. It began as a faint vibration, like a ripple in water, moving through the darkness. At first, I thought it was another torment, another layer of the abyss revealing itself. But then I realized it wasn't coming from outside. It was within me. A warmth, small but undeniable, began to spread through my chest. It was so out of place in this realm of despair that I almost didn't trust it. The warmth grew stronger, pushing back against the cold emptiness around me. And then I saw it. A light, distant but unmistakable, cutting through the shadows. It wasn't harsh or blinding. It was soft, like the first rays of dawn after a long night. The light didn't push the darkness away. It absorbed it, transforming it into something I couldn't explain. The light moved closer, and with it came a presence, calm, steady, and so overwhelming that I felt every part of me tremble. It wasn't just a presence I could see. I felt it, like an embrace that reached into the deepest parts of who I was. Then, out of the light, Jesus emerged. He didn't look like the images I'd seen in books or paintings. He wasn't tall and commanding, nor was his face immediately striking. But his eyes, those eyes, held everything. They were filled with a love so deep, so pure, that I felt exposed in their gaze, as though he could see every part of me, even the parts one wanted to hide. For a moment he simply stood there, looking at me. The cries and torment around me faded, as if this moment existed outside of time. I couldn't speak. I didn't know how to. He revealed to me that his love had always been there, like a steady river flowing beside my life, even when I didn't recognize it. He showed me moments from my past, times I had felt lost or afraid, and how he had been there, guiding and protecting me in ways I hadn't understood. It wasn't condemnation I saw in his presence. It was understanding, as though he had known every thought, every struggle, every choice I'd made, and still, he loved me without hesitation. He helped me see that this journey into darkness wasn't meant to punish me but to awaken me. He wanted me to understand the weight of my choices, not to burden me but to show me the truth. He revealed the depth of his love, a love so vast it reached even into the deepest shadows to find me, to rescue me. As I stood there, he shared with me the purpose of his appearance. My life, he revealed, was not an accident, nor was it small or insignificant. Every moment I had lived was part of a greater story, one he had written with love and care. He showed me the beauty of creation, the intricate design of every soul, and how we were made to live in harmony with him. Yet, he also revealed the brokenness in the world, how so many had turned away from him, chasing things that could never satisfy the hunger of their souls. He made me see how blind I had been, caught up in the rituals of my faith without truly understanding the one who had created me. My devotion, though sincere, had been misdirected. I realized that my heart had always longed for something deeper, something eternal, and it was in this moment that I finally understood. It was him I had been searching for all along. He revealed that my journey didn't end here. He had brought me back from the depths to give me a mission. I was to return to the world, to speak of what I had seen, to warn others about the reality of the choices they were making. But it wasn't just a warning he wanted me to deliver. It was an invitation. He wanted me to tell the world about his love, a love that was greater than their mistakes, their doubts, or their fears. In his presence, I saw the truth of his sacrifice, not as a distant historical event, but as something deeply personal. He revealed to me that every lash, every nail, every moment of suffering he endured was for people like me, people who didn't yet know him but who he loved with a love that defied understanding. It wasn't guilt he wanted me to feel. It was gratitude, the kind that transforms a life. He didn't speak to me in the way I was used to, with words that I could hear. Instead, his truth filled my heart like a melody I couldn't forget. I knew, as surely as I knew I was standing there, that my life was no longer my own. It belonged to him, to the one who had saved me not just from the darkness of this place but from the darkness within myself. He revealed that this was the purpose of his appearance, to make me a witness, to carry his love back into the world. I was no longer the same, and I could never go back to who I had been before. I gasped as if I had been underwater for far too long, and suddenly my lungs filled with air. The sensation was overwhelming, like being yanked from one reality and thrust into another. My eyes fluttered open, and the first thing I saw was the tear-streaked face of my mother hovering over me. She was murmuring prayers, her trembling hands gripping mine tightly, as though afraid I might slip away again. Around me, I could hear voices, shouts of relief, muffled sobs, and gasps of amazement. My younger brother was clutching my other hand, his head bowed as he cried openly. Neighbors were gathered just beyond my family, their faces etched with disbelief and awe. Everything felt both familiar and strange, as if the world had shifted somehow while I had been gone. First, I couldn't speak. My body felt heavy, as though I was tethered to the earth in a way I hadn't been before. My head spun, and the memories of where I had just been rushed back with startling clarity. The darkness, the torment, the light, and his presence. They were as vivid as the faces now staring down at me. What I experienced was not a dream, not a story to be dismissed. It was a reality so vivid, so undeniable, that it has forever changed me. To my Muslim brothers and sisters, I urge you with every fiber of my being, seek the truth. Many of us have devoted ourselves to rituals, prayers, and traditions, believing we are walking the path of righteousness. But I tell you now, it is not enough to live a life of outward devotion while neglecting the deeper question: who is the one true Savior of our souls? I too believed I was on the right path, but I was blind to the truth that only through Jesus Christ can we find salvation. This is not a call to abandon your faith in God. On the contrary, it is a plea to open your heart to the one who gave his life for you, who loves you with a love so fierce that it reaches into the deepest darkness to save you. Repent, not just for the sins you know but for the pride that blinds us to his grace. Time is short and eternity is real. Do not wait until it is too late to seek him. And to my Christian brothers and sisters, this message is for you as well. The gift of salvation is not meant to be kept to yourselves. You have been entrusted with the truth of Jesus Christ, and with that truth comes a responsibility, a mission. Pray fervently, not just for your families and your churches, but for the souls who have not yet seen the light. Pray for Muslims, for those of other faiths, for those who claim no faith at all. Pray that their hearts may be softened, their eyes opened, and their lives transformed. Do not underestimate the power of your prayers. What I saw in that place of torment was a desperate need for intercession. There are souls trapped in cycles of disbelief, pride, and fear, and your prayers could be the key to breaking those chains. Be bold in sharing the gospel, even when it feels uncomfortable, even when the world mocks or resists you. Remember, it is not your power that saves. It is his love working through you. All right, friends, this brings us to the end of today's experience. Kindly like and share this video with your friends and families. Kindly subscribe to our channel and turn on your notification bell icon to be the first to get updated anytime we upload a new experience sent to us. Remain blessed.